So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new container, make this a color, and I'm going to drag in our texture on into that container. I'm going to go ahead and drag it in and bring it over top of this photo and see if we can't reduce the transparency or do a blending mode. So let's right click and go to Effects. And we could do blending modes just like we do with Photoshop and Illustrator, and you just go into your effects panel, which is like your layer styles panel, and you can maybe do an overlay, soft light. I bet hard light might look pretty good. Oh, no, that's a little too harsh. We could scroll through these. You can do your arrow key and it'll automatically preview for you. So I'm just doing my arrow key up and down. I think soft light's probably going to be the best we can do here. And reduce the opacity a little. Just adds a little bit of texture to it. It's very subtle, but what we could do if we want to make that more pronounced is we can double click it and just make it more zoomed in here. So you get to see more of the texture like that. So that's an option if you wanted to add that. I'm not a big fan of how the blending mode works there. What we could do is bring that texture into Photoshop and fine tune it there and then bring it in instead of doing a blending mode in InDesign, because Photoshop you're just going to have way more options over how it looks. I'm going to leave it flat for now and add a linen texture a little bit later. So there's our inside spread and our front cover, and now we're ready to do our first recipe spread next. For this inside spread, this is going to be our ingredients page. So we want to have kind of this one picture really shows the end result of the ingredient, and the other side is the ingredients page. And so I have all of this entire ingredient list for you for these berry tarts. I have it saved for you in this text file so you don't have to sit there and make up your own recipe. And this is from eatwell101.com. It's their rustic berry tart recipe. So we're going to start to bring this in, and we want to try to get a plan for our structure. How do we want to lay out our recipe? Well, we really have kind of two columns here. We have ingredients, and we have how do you put the ingredients together. So I thought we'd have a two-column layout, with the first column being smaller for the ingredients list and the right column being a little bit wider for the preparation and the order of how to prepare everything. And also maybe a bottom area for some quick tips. And the great thing about the quick tips area is it could be another colored bar, and it'll break up all the white that we have in our recipe in the middle. So it's kind of a way to have the quick tip, but to also break up our design so it's not one big white sheet with text on it. It's got some color and some background to it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's hop into InDesign, and let's go ahead and prepare our first photo. So let's get our container box, and let's drag in our berry tart photo. And of course we can double click and drag it to our liking or crop it to our liking. And now we can prepare our ingredients list. So I thought we'd have a really interesting colored banner on each one of these. This whole recipe book will follow the same order, so I thought it would be neat to flip it around. So we have this spread would feature the photo on the right. This recipe spread would feature the photo on the left. And so it kind of had this back and forth, so it's not like every ingredient page was on the same page. It kind of broke it up a little bit for the reader and made it a little more interesting. But I wanted to have the same headline on each recipe page. So let's make that dark navy blue. Let's keep with our branding here. And I wanted to shake it up and do a little bit of a diagonal shape. So I'm just taking the pen tool to create our own little shape and making it our navy blue. Sarah's Bountiful Berry Tart. That's going to be the title. Let's do our text box and bring that type in. And if we already have character styles set up, then it'll be easy for us. So Pacifico headline, but let's make this gold. And let's go ahead and save this as a headline type, but let's make it a little bit bigger in size, right about there. And once we're happy with that, we could save it as a character style and say recipe headlines. So now we don't have to sit there and do that. We could just click on our character styles and have it saved for us. So I thought we'd add a little angle to this and make it. And I thought what might be neat is to bring this same watermark and do the same thing again, but make it a lot smaller on this upper left side. Maybe not make the angle quite as dramatic, but we could just spin it down just a little bit of angle to add to everything. So now we're ready for our two-column layout. So we can take our rulers here and create some guides. So we could do a guide for our first column, which is not going to be based on the grids. These are perfectly split in half, but we're going to make it a little bit shorter. And our second column is going to be a little bit wider for our preparation. So let's bring in our type. Let's go ahead and take what we have here. I'm just going to borrow this. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And I could create our first ingredient column. And I probably need to make all this blue, navy blue. And the only reason I'm doing this is I'm just kind of seeing how all of this is put together. Great, so now I need a headline for both of these. That'll be a separate text box. So one needs to say ingredients, and one needs to say preparation. So we have preparation and ingredients split in half there. So now we can toggle this off. We know that all that is aligned how we like it. We can finesse this, of course. Put a little bit more spacing between those two so we don't get those mixed up. Remember, a little bit of spacing goes a long way. So let's make our headline. Let's make it similar to this. So we can go to our character styles and go down to recipe headline, and we might want to make it a little bit smaller because we don't want to overtake the headline or the recipe name, so we just want to make it the same typeface but just a little bit smaller. And we can even save that as a character style and make that subheading on the recipe page. So that's subheading recipe, so we can go right here and just do same thing. Boom, done. Let's bring in our divider lines and be consistent. And I love using divider lines between subheadings and body copy. You don't have to always use it. I just think it really adds a little flavor and a little punch to your design. Little finesse, never hurt anybody. And if you have snapped a grid on, things are going to snap nice for you. So these are just going to snap right into place and be top aligned. So let's start to add in all of our information. Let's go to our recipe. So we have this broken down in a couple of subheadings, additional subheadings. So we have a crust and we have a filling. So let's just bring all this in and we can finesse this after we copy and paste it.